the world changes rapidly at St. Paul University, Philippines, School of Nursing and Allied Health Sciences, we are committed to focus on what matters most, the value of education by providing learning for all. Join us in Higher Education in Focus, Discover, Visualize, and Reimagine, a global webinar series that explores the challenges, opportunities, and lessons that educational institutions around the world needs. The series will also involve cutting-edge thinking in today's higher education. Learn from higher education experts, thought leaders, researchers, and innovators as they share their experience about these contemporary topics that will benefit students, educators, and leaders across all disciplines. Good day, world. I am Alan Blaquera, and welcome to the 7th episode of our webinar series, Leadership Lessons Leading Through Innovation and Impact. This series aims to provide practical competencies and transferable skills in response to the changing landscape of higher education, communicate current global higher education trends and challenges, and explore multiple ways for higher education professionals to respond to the change and transformation brought about by technology and innovation. Before we formally start, here are a few reminders. To welcome us all, may I introduce the Program Director for Nursing at King Faisal University, College of Applied Medical Science, Vice President, Sigma Honor Society of Nursing, Phi Gamma Chapter, Certification Board of Commissioner, National League for Nursing, a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, and an adjunct faculty of St. Paul University, Philippines, Dr. Benjo Breboneria.
Thank you, Alan, for that introduction. So here we are again for our 7th series related to higher education in focus and our initiative to educate professionals and students in different parts of the world, whether it's in the Middle East, it's in the Philippines, or in other countries. So there are so many things that I would like to say, particularly from what we have learned from our previous event, because it is actually the second event related to planetary health. And I will speak for it, and I really truly advocate for a call for action, because from the last 2 sessions that we had about that topic, I felt that we, since majority, I think, in this room are healthcare providers, nurses and midwives, I think, like us, can do a huge part on that initiative, because one of the things that we learned is that the world is getting hotter. So there is, how can I say it, a change in temperature in different parts of the world. And healthcare professionals like us, as I mentioned, can do a huge part. And knowing that we are one of the most numerous and arguably most of the, should I say, patient-centered component of the healthcare workforce. And it's very important that even on our level as professionals, we need to assume a leadership role in addressing planetary health. And leadership begins not just by educating ourselves, but also educating other people. So it may be students, staff, it can also be patients, and of course, our communities. So aside from doing our part as a professional, or just, like what I've said, on our level, engagement also in political initiatives or probably political processes, particularly for leaders who are here, are needed, and it is required, and can take in many forms. even in small measures may make an impact. Like for example, the students who are in Saudi Arabia, they are currently doing some projects related to sustainable development goals. So even in that way, they are actually taking a piece of their share on how they can contribute to for that initiative. So even in local level sustainability and also readiness is very important and meaningful in one's university, whether it's in a school or it's in a hospital or in a healthcare system. But one of the things, since I'm not only just a nurse, but also an educator and also a leader in my field, it's very important. Education is very important. Learning, teaching and learning related to planetary health is very important. And it's very key to productive action, because I know that around the world, when it comes to the discussion of this topic, it is not yet interwoven, or should I say integrated in some of the curriculum, such as in nursing. Aside from that, and lastly, I just would like to say that again, it's essential that we need to take part to every solution that would improve the health of the planet, and also we need to educate ourselves regarding the implications for the development and the use of the global healthcare workforce. It can also be research, also being involved in research and also to practice. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so on the next part of our event, let me call in Dr. Alan PJ Lapay, Director for Center for External Relations, Alumni and Advocacies, to deliver his words of inspiration to all our participants today.
Doc PJ, we can't hear you on our end.
Doc PJ, there's no sound. So I think Dr. PJ is having some technical issues on his part. He's currently in the Philippines right now. So let me just probably we will get back to Dr. PJ. Dr. PJ still don't have a sound, so I guess we will just we will get back to you. All right. I'm sure that you will be delivering an impactful message, same as what you did from our previous event, and I'm sure about that. And we're really looking forward to that message. All right. So for the next part of our event, okay, can you try it now, Sir PJ? Doc PJ?
Sir Benjo, can you hear me?
Okay, great, great. Okay, proceed. Okay.
Okay. But I still share my my presentation. Okay. Yes. So to our guest of honor for tonight, And to all of you who are participating via online, good day. From the Philippines, good evening. As globalization tears down boundaries and barriers, innovation has become a core driver of growth, performance, and valuation. We consider as the most important way for our institutions to accelerate the pace of change in today's ecosystem. Strategic thinkers are moving beyond a focus on traditional services or products to pioneer innovations in processes, values, models, and even the functions of management. Here in St. Paul University of the Philippines, the leadership and esprit de corps of employees have combined to foster a culture of innovation in our academic community. Thanks to the empowerment and inspiration from our university president, Sister Merceditas Ang SPC, our university has been recognized as an innovative institution in our region and in the country. Innovation in SPUP is embedded in our strategic management, relevant to the university's vision, mission, and goals. Moreover, SPUP creates the conditions that allow dynamic innovation networks to emerge and flourish. In the university, ideas are valued, encouraged, expressed, and shared. Let me paraphrase a portion from Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. What do leaders do? They show that when we strive to become better, everything around us becomes better too. In SPUP, innovations are human-centric and value-based. We live by our byword of making a difference globally by providing quality and holistic education. Furthermore, SPUP's innovation is reflected in the positive convergence of quality, technology, and sustainability. The international recognition of our university in the world's universities with real impact ranking shows that SPUP advances its programs and services based on innovativeness, implementability, and impact. It also reveals that SPUP is making real contributions to the society through its creative and innovative approaches on research and educational programs along industrial application, entrepreneurial spirit, ethical value, student mobility and openness, crisis management, and fourth industrialization. Moreover, the inclusion of SPUP in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings manifests its commitment to endeavor a sustainable future through its innovative and quality education. Leadership and innovation recognize greatness from team members and work to develop paths and success from shared ideas. In a continuously changing world, innovative leaders stand out because of their willingness to adapt to change, experiment with new concepts, create impact, and envision the path forward for a sustainable human ecology. Thank you very much, and may we all have a fruitful learning tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. PJ. As always, you are delivering words that have impact. And I agree with everything that you said. So now to move on to the next part of our event, let me introduce all the participants tonight to our speaker and who will be our speaker. David or Dadi Permutter is an entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, and a trailblazer for new technologies and businesses, focusing his efforts on financing and nurturing Israeli startup companies in the technological sector, along with social activity aiming to reduce disparities and to provide opportunities for young people from all walks of life in his society. Dadi reached the obsolete top position in the business and technology world as a senior executive in the global management of Intel Corporation. In 2013, he was named as a candidate for CEO of the huge multinational company. In his last role at Intel, as a Chief Product Officer in a global of the global Intel Corporation, he boosted the company's revenue from 33 billion in 2009 to $52 billion in 2013 and managed 35,000 employees worldwide from USA, from Israel, from India, from China, Europe, and in many parts of the world. As part of his role, he was the designated contact person for business and technological negotiation with industry leaders such as Apple and Microsoft. Currently, he also sits on the board of Mellanox Technologies, serves as a chairperson of several startup companies such as the Weebit Nano and Terramount, and is invested in various startup companies in Israel and also at the Silicon Valley. He has been involved in many nonprofit foundations, and one of them is in involvement as a chairperson of the Public Council of SOFEN High Technology Centers, which promotes high-tech employment in Israel's Arab society and future leadership of the advancement of youth of Ethiopian descent. Through the years, especially between 2009 and early 2014, he was Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer in charge with the research and development of Intel's platform solutions for the whole spectrum of computing and communication needs, including data centers, desktops, laptops, handheld, and embedded devices. And all throughout that long years of his career, he has been one of the driving forces in the different and diverse kinds of technologies that we are using through the years. And today, Dadi continues to take an active part in the effort to reduce social disparities for the benefit of the society and to provide all its various sectors with opportunities to develop and thrive, with an overall vision of meaningful and equitable economic growth. So to call in our speaker for today, let me call in Sir Dadi Permutter.
Thank you very much, Benjo. If you could unshare, I could share my presentation. Well, why don't we see the, oh, okay. So thank you very much for your very warm words. It's always good to hear that again and again. It helps my thinking. When I first talked to Benja, that was a while ago, we talked about how to teach innovation, how to talk about the way you create new things. And I could have talked about all kinds of techniques and make it quite boring. But when Benja and I talked about, we agreed that it's better come with a story, a real story that have a lot of lessons out of it that could apply to anyone. And it's kind of a strange thing why you talk about a failure. We live in a world that have huge rate of change. Whatever was true yesterday and not necessarily true today, and for sure will not be relevant in a year. And when you try new things, by definition, the chances for failure are huge. And it's also applied because each and every one of us definitely have some sort of a failure. Other self-imposed failure, tried something, didn't succeed, an external source of a failure or a tragedy or a crisis. And the real question is, what do you learn from it, how you get out of it, and move to something? And I'm talking about how you get from a failure to success. I'll start with a very short story because I was interviewed in Australia a few years ago. At that time, Australia had some inspiration to move from mining into tech. And I was asked by a young journalist, she asked me about, if you could say one thing, what makes Israel, such a very successful startup and tech giant, what will be your number one? And I said, my number one lesson is failing is good. She was so shocked that she didn't proceed with any question. She moved to the next one, and I don't think she ever got why it is. So very few people would come in and talk about their failures. Everybody loves to talk about the great thing they've done. While the failure have some good ending, and I think the good ending didn't come by chance. It came by a very methodological and way to approach it. And I want to be able to teach you and give you this lesson. Anyway, if you have any question throughout the presentation, please put it in a chat. I'll go over at the end and look at the questions that come at the chat and try to answer as many as possible. So the failure that I had was quite embarrassing, and I couldn't throw blame to anyone. It was very much my responsibility. A multi-year plan that were executed by 300 engineers basically cost $250 million. The 300 engineers for 3+ years is even more expensive because the opportunity loss. When you think about a company like an Intel, if 300 engineers do not create any product that sells for billions later on in the next few years, that's a failure. So it's an opportunity loss is huge. And how do you survive and do something that goes beyond that? That could be a career-ending failure. And for me, it was not a career ending. It was very much a career renewal. So a few things about myself. This is a picture from the cover of my book. I didn't have yet the time to go translate it to English, unfortunately. The story I tell is one chapter in this book. It talks about a lot of many things. As Benjamin mentioned, I worked at Intel for many years. Since then, I do work and founded many startups, had few good exits out of it, few failures on top of it, and a lot of fun. But my main pride is on my social activities. In many senses, I apply a lot of my learning of innovation in the social activities. They require not for sure not fewer, but sometimes even more creative thinking with respect to how to solve social problems that we carry on for ages without a solution. In many cases, the situation even deteriorates. So I think this is a lesson. I'm going to be as less technological as possible. It's based on a technology. And I come from the semiconductor industry, which is probably quite bizarre to most of people on Mother Earth. But as I'm an engineer, I'd like to talk about numbers. The 50,000 to 50 billions. Usually when I do it face-to-face, I do it as a query and ask people to guess what do I mean. I'm going to skip that right now. When you think about a computer chip, the thing that really makes the world, every one of you have multiple computer chips by the dozens, if not, in your phones, in your notebooks, in your cars, I'm hearing hearing devices. I have such a computer inside it too. And every of this computer chip is built from a small device called the transistor. When I joined Intel in early 1980, the leading edge microprocessor at the time called 8086, which was the engine for the IBM PC, the first IBM PC that launched in 1982, had 50,000 of these tiny small devices. Today, leading edge processors in the world have 50 billion. This is a 1,000,000x improvement in 40 years. There's nothing in human history that even come close to this one. Just think about, by the way, the speed of computing changed. This 50 billion transistor computer chip have billion times faster than the big IBM computer that was used to calculate the Apollo program to launch the man on the moon. Billion times. I don't think you would imagine any industry, every innovation, everything that a human being has done that had such a huge change that have an impact on almost every one of us. And based on this huge change, a big change in economy change. If you look at the growth of the value of Nasdaq, the indicator for the technological stocks of products. If in 20 years ago, most of the big companies in the world have been either oil or big industrial, today the giants are tech companies, the Apples, the Microsofts of the world. This is where most of the value comes in, and not for a bad reason. This is what it is. The fact that Nasdaq went down because of the current crisis, in a year or plus minus we'll get out of it, and things will get even better. And as I'm going to talk today, every crisis, every failure carries an opportunity in it, that people that go do something with it will have good chances. The story will cover another side, because one of the big beneficiaries of the failure and the coming out of it was the team that I was leading in the late 90s, the activity of Intel in Israel. It grew from very much developing about 10% of Intel yearly revenue to today they care about 60 to 70 or even more plus percent of Intel revenue. That's a big change for any team in a global company that really resides 7,000 miles away from the headquarters. Why would anyone care, or how you create such a huge, impactful organization so far away from where the center of the company is? And I'll cover that part of the story. The story of this activity started 50 years ago. 50 years ago, almost. And there was a big struggle how to position this organization within the greater Intel. One of the Intel executives at that time compared the management of Intel Israel like Clint Eastwood. Remember, this is the 1980s. Clint Eastwood was one of the big superstars. I don't know how many people do remember him today, but he was a superstar at the time. He was fighting evil, was trying to do things. He was doing things in his own way. And usually, if you are a big manager in the headquarters in the United States, you don't like people far away doing things their own way. And that's my first lesson of this talk. I have a very contrarian view of what management should think about their employees. Or, it's true also for your kids if you're a parent. That's a caricature that was on the wall of my office, and the author of it was one of my employees. I think the biggest fault of a manager not to follow up to make sure that their employees do exactly what they ask for, it's completely the opposite. The opposite is that, as a manager, I would be mad if someone just followed exactly what I asked them to do and didn't create innovative thinking, thinking against the wall. Why did he ask me that question? Is he right? Is he wrong? Are there better ideas, better things to do? But the people, the management in the US, in California, didn't like it that much. So I'll have a short story. In the late 1980s, there was a big change in the way computers on a chip were architected. And the new ideas were very different from the way Intel did things, and it was a clear danger for Intel to go lose the business. In the late 80s, that was the first decade of the personal computer. Intel as the heart and the engine of the personal computer with their computer chip, and people feared they are going to lose it. And many people, many top engineers at Intel wanted to follow step to go on that, what at that time considered to be a revolution. But that could have come with a huge disaster for Intel, because this way of doing things was not running the software that was developed for Intel and the IBM PC, and Intel have a very big competitive advantage for this one. But we said that to people that we have a different idea how to do that, to use the new way, but still maintain the big benefit of Intel of running the software of the PC. And people didn't listen. So we sent a fax to the Intel chief executive officer at the time. Why did you send him a fax? At that time, only engineers have email. Sounds like very strange things today, but email did not exist, only engineers used it. I was happy enough because I thought he's going to fire us, but I was happy enough that he came through and decided to go and send his top senior VP to go listen to our ideas. And from that idea became the Pentium processor that basically was leading the whole personal computing world through the 90s and made Intel a real giant at the time. Unfortunately, they never let us do this project. They kind of picked our brains and ideas, but we moved on. I want to say this story because I think it's a very teaching that you don't have to be kind of led and be a captive of some other people's thoughts and ideas. By the way, this CEO told me that years later that he was lucky to go listen to us, because when he talked to Bill Gates, just weeks before we sent him this fax, Bill Gates was angry, very angry with him, because if Intel went the other direction, all the software that Microsoft were developing for the PC would have been useless. And he should have had to develop everything from scratch. And apparently, even though I didn't know this story at that time, this fax was coming to this CEO on exactly the right time. So sometimes you need to be lucky. So I come to my main talk, learning from a failure is a prerequisite for a success. So I'm not recommending that you come and fail yourself just on purpose. When you are in my business, and I bet when you try new things, it's by definition you fail. You don't have to do it on purpose. It will come on its own. And a road to success in many cases passes through failure. I read a lot before doing this talk, and there is a very wonderful 3-minute talk that Steve Jobs gave when he was given an honorary degree in Stanford University. And he said exactly the same thing. He gave 3 examples in his life when he was failing, and the failure caused him to go take a different path and create great things. And that's my story today. It leads to something that today seems like, yeah, of course. Everybody have anytime, anywhere computing. When we all lived through the COVID pandemic, we were thankful to having a computer that could be connected wirelessly and continue with our jobs, our interaction with people, in our learning, and whatever that was done, not it was pleasant. But that idea came by the year 2000 as a result of this big failure. I'm going to take how we got to this idea. I think that carries a lot of learning. So I talked about Pentium. In the 1990s was the era of the Pentium, of the personal computer. I bet many of you are young people, not necessarily have seen this kind of thing, but that was the main thing that was on everybody's desk in the 1990s. The good old personal computer was quite useful, but very ugly, not that powerful, but that's what people had, and that's what we all used. Intel was the king of the hill, and Intel had a very probably non-sophisticated but very powerful pricing strategy. As everybody wanted more computing power and more speed, Intel told the world and trained the world that the faster the computer chip is, the more expensive it would be. People paid for it, and it was not linear. It was an exponential function. For 10% more speed, you probably paid 50% more money for the computer chip. Not bad for Intel. And engineers do what engineers do. They were told by the Intel marketing team, do things faster and faster and faster. That's what they did. But any one of you that studied economics, they all know that the law of diminishing return is a very vicious law. You try to speed up the speed by 10%, it sometimes gets to increase the area of the computer chip by sometimes 2x. And computer chips, the cost of manufacturing goes not linearly, but exponentially with the area that the computer chip takes. Because of all kind of technological reason, I'm not going to get into it. It made that Intel had a more and more expensive computer chip to sell the world. Everything was very, very nice until competition came in. And competition couldn't compete with Intel on performance, on speed, but they could compete on price. And they were starting encroaching Intel business from the bottom, and it was becoming to the level of prices sometimes in 96, 97. So a very urgent meeting was called in California. All the management of the microprocessor team were sitting there. Everybody agreed it's a huge problem. Everybody agreed that it had to be solved. Nobody had a clue what to do, and nobody volunteered to take the job of solving this problem on themselves. So I volunteered. I thought that it's a huge opportunity to get Intel Israel that I mentioned earlier, about 10% of the value for Intel to something bigger. I was the managing director of Intel Israel at the time, and I thought, huge opportunity for me. I'll go jump on it. I flew back to Israel. At that time it was even worse, no direct flight. And I came back, gathered all my team, about 300 people, and I told them, huge opportunity. Intel has a big problem. Nobody knows how to solve it. It's up to us to go solve it, and we'll be the most important team at Intel if we are successful. And I asked the people to come with great ideas to me. I didn't know what to tell them to do, and that was not my role, as I mentioned earlier, to tell them what to do. Week 2, 3 went by. No one came with an idea. Until I was fortunate enough, and I was walking in a corridor to get myself a cup of coffee, and I bumped into 2 young engineers, and they told me, Daddy, we have an idea for you, but it will come with a cost. In order to reduce the cost, to reduce the area of the computer chip, we have to slow it down, which was counter to what I told you people wanted to do. They want to speed things up. I said, we'll slow it down by 10%, we'll get 50% cheaper. I was very angry with them. I said, this is not a good idea. It's against the Intel business strategy. We all know that faster is better. Why you propose the thing? But as I had no other choice, sometimes the best thing for a decision maker is that you have only one option. If you have more options, you have to think through. You have one option, it's easy. That's what you do. I asked them to take 2 weeks and prove to me that they can do it. They did. I went back to California and presented what we were going to do. So I don't know how many of you have ever seen a picture of how a computer chip look like, but that's the way it does. And this is the picture of a microprocessor chip that I developed when I was in Oregon in the northwest of the US. This is how it looks like. And we wanted to make it smaller and cheaper. So if you look at the right side within this red, marked with red, this is how small we made it. As we did it smaller, we put all kind of other things like graphics, like memory onto the same chip to make sure that the whole solution become cheaper and we could compete very easily with the competition. Then that was working very well, but I decided to go one bridge too far, one step further. And I made a deal with a memory computer chip manufacturer to use their memory because it was faster and have a faster interfaces that could help me to make my solution even cheaper. I didn't know then, I thought I was too smart. My father told me later that I was over smart. Over smart means that you're trying to overdo your smartness. Sometimes, the next lesson is don't try to overdo things. If you're good enough, let's leave it that way and go do it. Don't take another risk on top of many risks. But that's what I did. And we failed miserably. 3 weeks in the war, what we found out that this memory manufacturer, whatever cost we have reduced our microprocessor, they increased the price of their memory. So, and the executive manager of Dell Computers told me, you didn't bring any cost reduction to me because I am buying cheaper person for you and a more expensive memory from the other guy. I don't have any benefits. So I propose to Intel to really kill this product. That's what it is. Trust me, that is not a good feeling. Sometimes it's really not quite painful to be at the cutting edge of technology. And that's how I felt. It is a very unpleasant feeling. And I'm the boss. It's my responsibility to do something about it. I was told later on when I gave this presentation, this story to people, and a lot of the attendees have been ex-Intel employees. They told me that their feeling was even worse than what I see in the picture. They were afraid that they all be fired by Intel and they'll close the development center and send all people to the street. I could do a few things. One, not get out of bed, put my blanket on top of my head and forget about everything. Ignore and hope that people will forget about it. Try to do it again, better, or try go do something completely different. But I had no clue, I didn't know what to do. Then my human resources manager, a very smart lady, met me and said, I'm going to tell you a joke. Johnny tell mother, I'm not going to school today because the kids in school hate me, they call me names, they throw things at me. And if it was today, they probably would say, be shaming me on TikTok. At that time, 1990s, they're just calling names. And the mother said, Johnny, you can do that. You're 45 years old, you're the schoolmaster, and you have to go to school. Well, I knew what she told me. I was 45 years old at the time. I was managing the school and I didn't have any choice. So I have to go pull out myself first. You don't pull a team before you go. It's, pull yourself by the hair and getting out of the swamp. It cannot be done physically, but mentally it could be done. So the first thing when you are failing, you have to work on yourself. How you don't get yourself into despair, but go and be active about what are you going to do. And then I used my father when I was failing at school. He was telling me, hey, when you fail, you pay the tuition. Now it's up to you if you're going to learn something out of it or not. It's your call. You may decide not to ignore it, or you decide that it's a life lesson and you're going to do something about it. So I decided that I'm going to follow my father's advice. Well, when I was 16, I wasn't, but 45, you probably try listen to the wisdom of your father. And we brought in people that would teach us about how to do a good debrief, a good postmortem, to try to understand what have happened, what are the good things and what are the bad things that we have done. Usually when people do a debrief, a postmortem, they go look for the bad things, what was done wrong to make the failure. What the people that I brought in told us, that's very important and you'd better understand what you've done wrong. But the hardest part is to understand what you've done right. You don't want to throw the baby with the water because there may be some good things that happen to you and you want to make sure that you understand them as well. When you're trying to do new things, you want to continue and keep the good things, not throw them away with the bad thing that you don't want to do. And the number one thing that, and I use the Albert Einstein quote, a question is more important than an answer. And I created this chart as a joke when I was giving leadership class at Intel. When I was a young engineer at Intel, I had a low knowledge and I could answer relatively simple questions. And when I moved through my career, I was able to go and answer more and more complex questions. But then when I became a manager and a senior person, I realized that I need to ask questions. Who is going to define what the problems to solve are? And I found out that this is harder than answering. When I became even more senior manager, then I forgot how to answer the questions. Trust me, today you're trying to ask me with a very detailed technological questions. I'm not sure I'm the best person. I could find a lot of people in their 20s to be more thoughtful. But I became an expert and asked you questions. And everybody, it's true in every field. Think about the senior people in your team, researchers. The first thing they want to do is to really define the question. And sometimes when you get answers, you refine your question. You don't jump into implementation. You refine the questions until you think, the question is well defined. Something went wrong. I don't know why my presentation is stuck. Oh, here you are. So what we learned, for some reason, I'll stop share and share again because well, we had a very interesting finding. We found out that because we made so much effort to reduce the size of the die, that not just the area that the processor chip was consuming, the electrical power consumption went down also by 50%. Now, who cares? This was the era of a personal computer. It was on your desk. It was quite heavy, and it was plugged to the wall to get electricity. And it was also plugged to the wall to get a wire to connect to the internet. So who cares about reducing power? That was not the biggest part in the power bill that you get from your electrical company. So we applied another learning that we learned from someone. He showed us a book called The Art of the Long View. And it was another big lesson that I want to make sure that you get through. Most people, when you go to solve a problem, they think linearly. How do I change things by 10%? And usually, especially engineers, that is one of the big negative of an engineer. They always start, well, we can't do that. We don't know how to do that. And the lesson over here is you don't ask yourself whether you can do it or not. You ask yourself, you take one parameter, change it in a significant manner, and say, if I do that, do we get something interesting? And then you go figure out how the hell to do that. So this was the hell of the age of the personal computer. It was no mobility. It was on your desk. You didn't carry that out unless you moved from one office to the other. And it was, as I told, people want performance. Some people said that we don't care about mobility, but we don't care about performance. We do something dumb terminal. That was, of course, not an option. And then we say, what if people care about mobility? Remember, these were the 1990s. This is not 2023. And we said, what if we give up a little bit of a performance, but we want to make sure that we get a notebook that looks like a notebook of today, like MacBook Air, very thin, very light, very nice, well-connected, high performance. We asked ourselves another question. Interesting enough, that was 1999 or early 2000. We called it a mobile internet device. Believe me, that looks like a small tablet. We proposed to Intel to go do that. I put this one in my thoughts to do that later. Never got to do that. Big mistake. But today I'm about to tell about the success. We went in and told Intel that because of our wonderful finding that we have 50% reduction in power, extremely important to create any interesting mobile device, because a mobile device have to be small. You don't want to hold in your hand something that is 50 degrees C that will burn your palm or your lap. And you have to be connected wirelessly. Trust me, at that time, year 2000, nobody knew about Wi-Fi. There was hardly any Wi-Fi devices or anything in the world. And he came and told Intel that that's what we believe should be done. Like anything that you come with a very revolutionary idea, most people don't do that because they're afraid that they will get a laughing no. I'm telling you, the only way you know that this idea is revolutionary if people say and fight your idea. If they don't fight, go back to your drawing table. You have not been audacious enough. Sometimes they're wrong. It's a bad idea, revolutionary but bad. And there was a lot of people against this idea when we presented it for the first time. And people, and the person, the VP that was responsible for the desktop computer say to Intel management, if you're going to fund what Dadi is proposing, you're going to take away from the investment that you put in me. And we already have a very tough competition from a company named AMD, which is taking market segment share for us. And I want to invest more, not less. I think, for Intel, the top management of Intel decided not to listen to him, because sometimes to compete using competition is not to do something slightly better, sometimes better do something revolutionary better. Something that will take them years to chase you, other than when they are better than you, you're chasing them. And today, anytime, anywhere computing, we all know that. All of us have smartphones, all of us have notebooks. We all connected everywhere we were. There is a Wi-Fi or cellular connections almost every place. And my office is my home. I go to another place to sit in a cafe. It could be my office as well. I'm connected. The cloud is there. That was very successful for Intel. Within 3 years, the PCs moved from 90% PCs sold in the 1990s were desktops to 70% plus notebooks. The whole world now have Wi-Fi in them. You'll not find a notebook or a cell phone or anything which is not wirelessly connected. That's none of you will buy it. That was not the way it was just 20 years ago. The kind of the benefit, the cherry on the pie was that in 2005, Steve Jobs called Intel CEO, and Intel was trying to chase Apple to win the MacBook and the Mac itself for 20 years and didn't succeed. And Steve Jobs asked to meet me, and he said, when we met, for the first time in 20 years, I've seen something in Intel that's worth using, because he dreamed about his MacBook Air at the time, and he couldn't do it, there wasn't technology. So our technology was the thing that really fed the MacBook Air. But it didn't stop here. Intel have a very organized strategic planning timeline. In April of every year, there's a strategic long-range plan which looks out for 5 years. This is where the big decisions are being made. 5 months later, in September, there is a product line business plan that have the horizon of 3 years. This is where every business manager comes in and say, this is how I'm going to adapt my business plan and product plan to the strategic plan that was devised between April and September. And after showing this one, in November, December, every business manager have to come back with their yearly plan. At the end of the day, you need to have a budget, execution plan, marketing plan, sales plan, the whole thing to run your business, which is being set also as the bonus for the next year, which is analyzed and paid in January, which is based on financial results, on R&D, meeting R&D milestones, and what have you. So it happens every year in April. In April of 2003 was a very important one, because I was proposing to take and use the success of the notebook technology and apply the notebook into the data center, the cloud. That was at that time was just starting to evolve and become interesting. I don't think anyone used the cloud at the time term. It was invented later. And I learned through my meeting with the Google people, and Google at that time was a small company, not as big as it is today, that power and dissipating heat is even more important in the data center than it is in a notebook. Why is that? More than 50% of the cost is not the cost of computing and memory and communication, is the cost of the buildings, power supply, and cooling. And if you reduce power by 50%, by slightly reducing the performance of every processor, life is very good. You know, April 2003, I am sure most of you don't know, but that was a very tough time in Israel. It was in the midst of terror attacks, buses were blowing, restaurants were blowing. And when I proposing, well, this idea that basically the whole Intel business will now move to product developed by Intel Israel, he asked the question, you sure you want Intel to put all their eggs in a troubled place like Israel, where there's a war, people fighting? And he asked me to go move this technology to the US which I told him, and rightly so, this is impossible. Going to take you a couple of years. The end result was very successful. Intel did implement this strategy and became the winner of not just the PC and the notebook and the cloud itself. It became also the winner of the cloud. This picture shows you the market segment share. Why was the Intel CEO at that time willing to accept my proposal? Because he found out that he's losing already to the competition. This is where we were making this discussion. The product was launched in 2006. Intel is the blue, AMD is the red, and Intel was losing market segment share to AMD. Now, if you look at this one, see the abrupt change. The competition is going up, winning, you are losing, and all of a sudden something came by and it is changing. And Intel was successful to keep this leadership for a long time. Until very recently, because of all kinds of big mistakes Intel have made in the past 3 years, they are losing it again. But it was a big win for Intel. It was measured by tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars of profit for Intel. Intel Israel became since then the top development center for Intel Corporation. And I think basically it's true every time, but definitely when you are in a failure, you don't try to get yourself better. You use all the thinking tools that you have to go create a new future. And you have the most advanced or more chances to win is when you do something that others think you're an idiot to do. Because if you have few years of advance of being ahead, it's a wonderful thing. So I hope that by all the talks that we had, that failure is not that bad if you know what to do with it. If you use my father's idea that you already paid a very dear price, why don't you learn something of it? And this is extremely true at a time of uncertainty. I talk to kids. Next week, I'm going to give a similar talk to people in 10th grade. It's going to be slightly different, but they're smart kids. And, everybody tells them, if you don't dare, you will not be successful. But nobody tells them that if you dare, most chances that the first time you'll try it out, it will fail. That's a story that is not told to kids, but that's a true story. So what happens? Someone tries something, dares, and he fails. He'll never try it again. But if you tell the kids and you tell the young people that if you fail, try again, don't do exactly the same, learn something useful from it, try a different way, and there again. And that may turn out to be extremely successful, like the one in this story again. So at this point, I'll stop and probably open up to questions if you have time.
Thank you so much, Sir Dadi, for that wonderful and inspiring storytelling. The fact that you shared to us a part of the history on how these kinds of innovations and technologies really impacted the world, basically. And I'm sure I'm one of them because I was on my elementary days, especially when the type of computer that you have shown a while ago. So that's really so interesting. But before we move to the question and answers, to the questions, before I read all of those questions, let me just call in my colleagues here to also share their takeaways from what they have learned from the story that you shared. So I think I will be calling in Dr. Jeremy first. Dr. Jeremy Morales, please, if you would like to share your takeaways from Sir Dadi's storytelling.
Thank you, Dr. Bench, for giving me this little time to share my thoughts about leadership lessons through leading through innovation and impact from the presentation of Dadi. It is it's really very important for us to make an impact in our daily lives as leaders. We are all leaders in our own ways. When we are teachers, we are leaders inside the classroom. When we are in the office, we are leaders to our staff. And when we are home, we are leaders to the family. So it is very important that we do take actions to innovate on the problems that to innovate on the actions that we take pertaining to the solution of different problems. Now, in terms of technological innovations, it is very important as well that we get to be equipped with knowledge and skills so that we would be able to get along with the ever-changing times that we have. Every day of our lives, there are new things that we need to learn. There are new concepts of technology. There are new ways by which we can solve various problems in our office, in the university, and even in the community. So the sharing of Dadi today is really very important for all of us. Being in various workplaces, there are some of us or many of us are nurses, many of us are teachers, and there are also students. And it is very important for us to be equipped with all of these knowledge and skills. So thank you very much, Dadi, for sharing with us these salient points in your discussion. And thank you, Dr. Bench.
Yes.
Back
Okay,
to you.
what about one of our colleagues, Alan? Dr. Alan, would you like to share your takeaways from Sir Dadi's presentation first? Yes.
We cannot hear you, Alan.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, can you now hear me? Yeah. I believe that when it comes to innovation, it is the synergy between leadership and people. That's what I am holding on, because apparently we are going to look at it. As I've said a while ago in the opening remarks, I said we take inspiration from leadership, and at the same time the esprit de corps, or the synergy between the people. And it is important that there is an aspect, or there is a facet or dimension of leadership in innovation. Because leadership, when it comes to innovation, should always foster or advance way for development. There is no innovation when there is no leadership. Otherwise, if there is nobody to lead us in innovation, then our inspiration to change, or inspiration for transformation, would be of disservice to others. So that's what my key takeaway from the leadership lessons of Mr. Dadi. And at the same time, as I've said in the opening remarks, we take inspiration from our university leadership. And here in SPUP, there's a concrete person whom we are inspired of, and at the same time who is always empowering us, and that is Sister Merceditas. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alan. And of course, I will call in Alan. Another Alan.
Yes, another Alan. Thank you for the very inspiring talk. My key takeaway is that we should fail fast. What I mean is that we should try and keep on trying and failing more in our trials, so that we get the results that we want faster. That's my key takeaway. And I have a question. Can I ask a question right now?
Yeah, yes.
So my question is, I'm a nurse by profession. I'm taking my PhD here in Japan. And my question is, what do you see, or what's your vision in biomedical technology?
You know, it's a very good one. I want to refer to a few of the comments. I agree. Leadership and innovation come hand in hand. But as I explained, the idea didn't come from me. It's not I have ideas and I let the team to do that. All the good ideas came from my people. What I said at, the leadership fact, the fact that two young engineers, they were not people working for me directly, there were 3-4 levels below, were talking to me while I was walking in the corridor. They didn't ask for a meeting. They just had the courage to go talk to me. First, the fact that they were not afraid to talk to me is a good, because someone said, are you a tough manager? Yes, I was a tough manager. I was demanding the team, but I don't think I was a scary manager. I was not a slave driver. And it's a very delicate balance. Many people make a mistake. You ask tough things you want people to achieve, you want to do, but you want them not to be afraid. You want them to think through and not do what you ask them to do, but come with new ideas. The world is changing in a significant manner. There's another presentation I have. I think we are living now in a world of convergence. Convergence of digital technology, very much artificial intelligence coming into the world of medical and biology and pharma. I was heading a government committee with respect to how to increase tech. One of the proposals, I had many, was to increase digital technology, computing, data sciences, and AI into med school, biology school, even accounting, all this world, the world of convergence. There's a lot of dangers with AI. It's hours of discussion, but anything human beings are doing have the two sides of the coin. Great ideas for the benefit of humanity, horrible ideas that could ruin humanity. It's our job to make the good ideas win. I think the world of biomed will be, or is already, one of the first to combine these multiple domains. It's now the world of multidiscipline. It's not that you're an expert on one thing. You have to understand mechanics. You have to understand, of course, medical. What is that you measure? How you measure that? What you do? How you do analyze that, and how you use the machine intelligence to learn and continue, and to use whatever you do to diagnose and to treat. And I think, my youngest daughter just graduated med school, and she had zero knowledge in this new world. I hope you're doing better, and you should. I believe that this world of treatment, of medical, meeting, digital, huge opportunities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir Dadi, and we will be reading the questions and the messages from our participants here. I think we have a lot of questions and thoughts expressed by our participants. We have one here. What process and tools do you use beyond brainstorming on a whiteboard? What is your process?
It's a good one. There's no good replacement of thinking. And when I made this slide on the art of the long view, which I learned, I did not invent it. To build things sometimes is very expensive. Thinking about things is much less expensive. Now, thinking is not enough. You have to prototype. You have to build things. You have to try things out. You have to think about several options and analyze them. I have a rule about options. My rule is that I won't analyze 3 options. Why 3? If you have only one option, then there's no choice. If you have 2 options, you didn't think creatively enough. if you have 10 options, no one could deal with 10 options. Think through, weed out, combine some of the options that look similar. When you have 3, it's manageable. I love the number 3. It's not big enough, it's odd, and it forces you to think very much into the concepts. Then, if you have 3 options, you could do prototyping, you could do thinking, you could go ask customers, you could go present them and get feedback. You build one, and you hope that what you build is going to be successful, not yet another prototype that you have to throw away and do something else, but that's part of the process. AI is a big tool because you could start doing a lot of experimentation. Human beings have wonderful way to think, but sometimes they're working with and developing machine learning experiences, analyzing way more data to come to create some kind of usefulness. It's another tool, was not available to us in the 90s and 2000s, but is available to every one of us today. And it is very useful and very thing to go incorporate. I'll tell you something about the number 3. When I was the head of this government committee, one of the big questions that is relevant to this discussion too, so I'll talk about it. What are the skills that are needed for people going into the workforce nowadays? Like the students, I bet there's a lot of students over here going to come out. Knowledge, of course. Literacy, of course. People need to know. You want to become a nurse, you want to become a doctor, you want to become an engineer. You have to know your profession. There's a knowledge that you need to have. It's not something. But on top of it, and when I am hiring people to a job, we pick 3 skills. Ability to self-learn, because we all know that the knowledge that we know and gain in whatever school, and you could have the best university on Mother Earth, you cannot teach everything. The second one is how you use the team power to work together and become smarter. And the other one that comes together with failures, the ability to solve problems that were not solved before. Now, the OECD came out with 28. I could culminate all the 28. I'm yet to meet a person that could remember all the 28. I've not met one yet. Maybe the guy that wrote the article, but many people could. And since you're all academia people, a good friend of mine who used to be my employee is the CTO of one of the biggest companies in tech called NVIDIA. If you use graphic chips, that's what you do, and they do all the chips for AI. And we graduated at the same time, our university here in Israel, 40 years ago, and asked him, Michael, can you tell me, from the thing that you do today, being the CTO on one of the most sophisticated, innovative companies in the world, you learned in the Technion versus what you learned after that. He said, in university, I learned 0 about the things I do today. Nobody talked about AI in the 1970s. Nevertheless, I learned and acquired all the tools and abilities to go learn everything I learned on my own in the last 40 years. So I think that's a big lesson with respect to how you go. And of course, when you learn on your own, you try things, you fail a lot, you do gain a lot of experience, you talk to people, you learn from people, you teach people, and it's all about this one. So it's all well combined to how you get people to grow up and be successful in a very confusing world, to be fair. I had a meeting with teachers. How you use ChatGPT for students? They could create their own work and I would not be able to teach it. A lot of questions more important than answers, as I said earlier.
That's amazing. Even in your statements, you have answered actually some of the questions that we have here. But I think there is one thing, Sir Daddy, here that I think is also, I think, extremely relevant. How do you foster a culture of innovation within your organization?
You know, fostering innovation is something very elusive. It's not that you have rules. It's part of a culture. And I was happy to hear what some of the people that talked. It's have to be a quite a free environment where people are not afraid to express their ideas, their views, their thoughts. It's also have to be an environment that, even though if your idea is not accepted, it's not working against you. Because I want you to come with an idea, I didn't accept it, and as a manager, as a leader, I could accept every idea I heard, and I'll be truthful. I'm not even sure that I picked the best idea. Sometimes there was a better idea that I rejected. That happens too. How do you foster the culture that people will say, okay, this idea did not succeed, I'll come with another one? How you create this people working together, because ideas shape up in a very interesting manner. My rule is that when two ideas come in, most people ask which of these two ideas will win. My rule is that maybe the better way that of these two ideas, the third idea will pop up, which is better than the two. So it's not who wins. You and I argue about my idea is better than yours, Benjo. If all we want is to win against the other, this is not an innovative environment. If we sit together trying to understand everyone's idea and eventually coming up with a new one, that's an innovative organization. That's how things are work. So it's at the end of the day goes back. You guys mentioned the two islands, the leadership part of it. It's part of the leadership. But leadership is not just the guy or the lady at the top. It's a leadership is everyone in the organization. When I sent this fax to the CEO of Intel, I thought it was a leadership act. But I was a junior engineer at that time. I was 31, 32 years old. I was not known. I don't think the CEO never heard my name before. He didn't know who I am. Maybe he did. Who knows? That's a leadership move. So leadership is not just the one person at the top. How you create leadership within the organization that everybody take responsibility for what they do and take ownership with respect to everything.
That's an excellent word about taking ownership. I think there's also another interesting question here. Can you give an example of a company or an organization that you admire for their approach to innovation?
I don't like the word admiration because it comes with thinking about superiority. But I do have several companies that I think they had at the time or coming up with interesting open ideas. How many knows Bell Labs? Probably the old people. Many of the great ideas that people even use today came in the 1970s from a very group of innovative people. The strange story was that the company that owned them at the time, AT&T, did not know how to capitalize on most of these ideas, but many other people did use their ideas in a good manner. At the time, Apple was extremely innovative organization. They are very successful today, but I don't think they are as innovative as they used to be 10 years ago. They are doing a very good job on capitalizing the innovation and the knowledge and the ideas that came by in the previous decade. And they're doing a great job on this one. On the other hand, Microsoft used to be less innovative organization. They're being very useful of making money. I think they're by far more innovative today and trying to do a lot of good stuff. These are kind of good examples. I know a lot of startups that are very innovative, that have been quite successful, and but I think most of them share, or you could see the change where the leadership foster innovation and admire new things versus just making more money based on what you have. And I'm not against it. And if I'm a shareholder, I like the latter a lot. But if you ask me who I admire, so I admire people that are not afraid to come with new ideas, even when they risk the current business that they're in.
Thank you so much. I think I will be asking two more questions here. What do you think is the future of Intel with AI revolution? And what is the experience that the company will provide for customers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Actually, Sir Dadi, the question is what do you think is the future of Intel with AI innovation? And what is the experience that company will provide customers? So this is like her question.
Well, I'm not at Intel for 10 years now. I was a candidate for the one of the candidates for the CEO, and I was not elected. In my talk to the board of directors, I presented that Intel need to move to AI. I'm not sure they understood. That was back in 2013. Not too many people knew even how to spell AI, even though it's easy spelling. And I'm not even sure that that was the only reason why they haven't picked me. I think Intel is running from behind. The problem I think that's, if you're ahead of the game, even if your solution is not perfect, and NVIDIA is a good example, they've been ahead of the game of AI, and therefore everybody is chasing them now, and they are winning. They may be losing someday if they kind of fall asleep and stop innovation. But when you're running behind, you'd better invent something new than try to do something as good as your competition. Because by the time you finish, it's true in any domain, but especially in tech. It takes you 3 years to develop something new. By the time you do it, your competitor already ran farther out. So, it's Intel CEO is a very tough job on his hands. My wife was very happy when I didn't get the CEO job, and now I'm happy too.
I think the last question would be something related to mentorship. All throughout that years of innovation and success, do you have a person who is mentoring you? I mean, do you have a mentor during those times in that journey of innovation and impact?
I don't think I have a one mentor per se. By the way, mentorship is a very important deal. And since some of you are faculty in university, and even teachers in school, their job is moving from teaching to mentoring more and more, because I think it's more of a self-learning world. But I did have people that I always come and try to learn as much as possible, the people that I interact with. And you'll be surprised, but many of the things I learned were not necessarily from people that were senior and ahead of me. Sometimes I learned a lot from someone that was working for me. And today, well, my kids are grown up now, but I found out that sometimes a first thinking of a kid is probably more useful or what you think a stupid question of a kid, if you take it not on the face value, but said, it's not that stupid. It's why do I do that? Because kids are looking at things. So I usually look at a few people, I meet with people, and my rule is that in every meeting, I'm not just teaching, I'm trying to learn something. That's my way. Some people pick a mentor that help them and lead them and give them advices. I didn't have one. To a large extent, I could say that my father was a big mentor for me. My father was an uneducated. He went to work in diamond polishing at the age of 14. Never had a kind of an organized kind of learning, but he has an instincts of what you call the life university. And he had a lot of insights that I'm finding out that the more I grow up, I'm using more and more of his insights that he was trying to teach me. And the problem when I was a teenager, I was not in listening mode, but I do remember many of those and I used them. I even brought a couple of his advices in my talk, and I thought they've been very useful, even though he was not a professional, not even a doctor. He didn't even finish high school.
Thank you so much, Sir Dadi, for answering most of the questions that were that are posted here by our participants. So let me just read some of the messages that we have here. I just wanted to express my gratitude for such an informative presentation. Thank you for the useful presentation, for the information. So basically the expression of gratitude and thank yous of our participants here. And I want to ask also my dear colleagues, Dr. Jeremy and Dr. Alan, do you have any additional question that you would like to ask Sir Dadi, just in case you have questions, please?
I'm sorry, I lost your last sentence.
Actually, sir, I'm asking my two of my colleagues just in case that maybe they have additional questions. That's what I said. But thank you very much for sharing your story. And if you will ask me, I'm sure that there will be a lot of students, professionals that will be inspired by that. Even those people who are probably in the midst of a particular failure or failing at something, because the typical reaction of some individuals or some human beings is to get away from it, or probably not to stand back again or get out of the mud, as you mentioned a while ago. But really, there is so much wisdom and insights on the story. Of course, the fact that it also something that I am asking in my mind a while ago. How does it feel like? How does it feels to be like in that? How can I say it? Kind of experience that you had, particularly the impact that you had in the world of technology, and of course, continuing to expand and to share that impact by paying it forward, like what you are doing right now. And we really appreciate that. And of course, to close and formally close our session for today, I would like to, of course, thank the president of St. Paul University, Sister Mercedes Ang, for her support and, of course, kindness and graciousness to always uh, for always attending also our events as well. And for her kindness in all the endeavors of the faculty members and also the of everyone in the university. And I also acknowledge the presence of my dear colleagues here, Dr. Alan, Dr. Jeremy, and also Alan Blaquera for their support. And of course, our participants who continues to support and attend our events and taking the chance, the time, and opportunity to learn from different perspectives, particularly from leaders and innovators, disruptors from different parts of the world who are using their voice to impact even in ways like this, such as delivering quality education. And of course, lastly, I would like to, and St. Paul University Philippines would like to express its gratitude, particularly to you for using your voice in this kind of platform and to share this kind of story that probably not you know, not something that probably something that we will not expect that we will be hearing. And just by reading your profile and your story, it's really how can I say it? Excellence and global impact and really inspiring. So that's it. Thank you so much, Sir Daddy. And for all our participants, just in case that you would like to, before you leave our event, make sure that you will be doing our evaluation here to evaluate our event. And please feel free to do it even before we end the session. Sir Daddy, you would like to say something before we...
Yes, I do. I do thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to talk to young people, which would like to learn, and I hope I was added some value. If you could share the evaluation, by the way, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because if I get what worked well, what didn't work well, because I want to make it better. I'm talking to 10 graders next week. I want to make sure I do a good job.
Of course, I will be doing that. For sure, I will be sending it to you later, Sir Daddy. My dear colleagues, you would like to say something to Sir Daddy before we formally end our session for today? Just in case you would like to express something.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Sir Daddy, for a wonderful sharing. And at the same time, we have learned a lot from you tonight. And hopefully, we keep on, as we get inspiration from you as well, we keep on innovating as we continuously witness transformation in the world. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Doc Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Daddy, for the sharing. Indeed, we need a lot of sessions like this that we get to listen to experts, and we get to learn from one another's sharing thoughts and ideas. Thank you very much. This is definitely another one for the record bench. Congratulations, and thank you for spearheading all of this, Doc Bench.
It's really amazing, really. And to our participants, again, I will repeat, please evaluate our event for this afternoon here, because it's around past 3 p.m. here, and to the Philippines at night, Indonesia, and to other parts of the world from India. We have Indian participants as well, and from Egypt also, I have seen, and some from other parts of the world as well. So please, I will give you 2 more minutes before we close in our Zoom session. Sir Daddy, I will be sending you the feedback.
Okay. Thank you very much. And
So,
hope to meet you sometime in real world.
yes, I'll visit there. Thank you,
Sure.
sir. Thank you, sir
You're
Daddy.
welcome. Bye.
All right. 1 more minute for them to do the evaluation. Okay, I will give you, I think, maybe 2 to 3 minutes before I close this in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Doc Bench.
Thank you, Sir
And to
Alan.
the participants, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for participating tonight. Sir Bench, thank you very much. Sana wag ka magsawa. See you soon.
See you soon. See you soon.
Yeah, see you soon in person.
Yes.
Okay. How many more sessions do we have?
I think 4 left. 4 left.
Four left. Yes, I think it should be nice that we tell our participants also of that
I
panel.
think another one, then our next one is also related to innovation, the next one. And then that I think the other one is about games in education, use of games, gaming or something like
Okay.
that. Yes. And
Great.
then the last one is about data mining. Data mining in
Okay.
education. Yes. All right. Bye.
Great. Bye.
Great. Bye. Thank you.